35 miles an hour. That's the speed a grizzly hits when it stops thinking about you and starts coming for you. From the moment it commits to the moment it's chest to chest with you, you have somewhere between 2 and 3 seconds. Not 3 seconds to think, 3 seconds to already be doing the right thing. Because the thinking was supposed to happen months ago, on a range, with the gun that's riding on you right now. So here's the question this whole thing turns on. When that clock starts, when a quarter-ton of muscle is eating the ground between you at 50 feet a second, which gun gets you killed? Ask 100 hunters, and 90 of them point at the same suspects. The little pocket pistol. The wrong caliber. The greenhorn who wandered into grizzly country with A22 like he was walking out to the mailbox. And they're not wrong that those are mistakes. But they're pointing at the loud, obvious mistakes. The ones that are easy to laugh at from behind a keyboard, with a full magazine of hindsight. The gun that actually gets people killed out here isn't the one the rookie is afraid of. It's the one the experienced man trusts. It's the gun he paid the most for, bragged about the most, and understood the least. It's a mistake wearing the costume of a good decision. By the end of this, you're going to look at the rig on your own chest a little differently. That's a promise. We're going to count these down. From the mistakes everybody already knows, to the one almost nobody sees coming. And every claim here gets sourced. Real studies, real names, real encounters. Because in bear country, guessing is how you end up as the story somebody tells at the trailhead. Let's start with the mistake that looks the dumbest, and walk it all the way to the one that looks the smartest. Number 7. The right gun, loaded with the wrong thing. There's a way to die out here with the best tool in the world in your hands. Picture a 12-gauge shotgun. Pound for pound, one of the finest bear guns ever built. Now picture it stuffed with birdshot. Here's the logic that kills people. A 12-gauge is a 12-gauge. A bear is a big target. So surely a load of shot, up close, has to do the job. It won't. It doesn't. It never has. There's a documented case of a man who put a full load of birdshot into a charging brown bear's shoulder at close range, and the animal never even broke stride. What saved his life was the slugs he fired after it, not the cloud of pellets. The solid slugs. Understand why, because this why is the spine of the entire video. Birdshot is a swarm of tiny pellets, and each one spends itself in the first inch of hide and muscle. But a grizzly is not an inch of anything. A grizzly is built like a fortress, with the treasure buried in the basement. Start at the outside, coarse hide, then a layer of fat, then those enormous slabs of shoulder muscle, the ones that build that famous hump over the shoulders, which is pure muscle anchored to bone, powering the dig and the strike. Then heavy bone. And only then, deep at the back of all of it, the heart, the lungs, the spine. The vitals of a grizzly sit behind a foot or more of the toughest structure in North American game. Birdshot never reaches the basement. It doesn't even make the stairs. The gun was right. The load was a death sentence dressed up as firepower. And that is the pattern for everything that follows tonight. It is almost never the gun. It's the choice wrapped around it. If it's the honest answer you're here for, and not the one that sounds good around a campfire, you already know where the subscribe button lives. This channel runs on telling you the thing you didn't want to hear, and sourcing it while we do. Number 6. The pocket gun. And a confession before we go one step further. This is the entry everybody expects to see on a list like this. The .380. The .22. The featherweight pistol somebody carries because it's already in the pocket, and it weighs nothing, and something beats nothing, right? Against a grizzly at a full charge, a pocket pistol is a prayer, not a plan. The round doesn't carry the weight or the momentum to punch through that shoulder and drive deep enough to reach anything that runs the animal. You will not stop the charge. You will only inform the bear, with precision, of exactly where you're standing. But here's where this channel is going to be more honest with you than the last video you watched on this subject. Because somebody in the comments is already typing it. A22 has killed grizzlies. And here's the thing. They're right. It has happened. There are real, documented cases of small calibers ending big bears when a shot threaded into the brain or severed the spine. Nobody honest can pretend those cases don't exist. So why is the pocket gun still a mistake? Because those stories are the survivors of a lottery, and you are being asked to bet your life on holding the winning ticket. A pocket gun forgives nothing. It demands a flawless shot into a specific 2-inch window on a skull that is dropping, weaving, and accelerating, while a quarter-ton of animal covers the distance in less time than it took to read this sentence. Hold that thought, because it is the whole video in miniature. The gap between "it has worked for someone" and "you can count on it working for you" is the exact canyon this entire countdown lives inside. It is going to come back, much bigger, before we're done. And it's going to have a number attached to it that most of the internet has wrong. Number 5. The gun that makes you wait, and the gun that fights you back. Now we climb out of the obvious mistakes and into the ones that show up wearing the disguise of a smart choice. This entry is really 2 failures. They look like exact opposites. They kill you in exactly the same way. They both steal the 2 seconds you were never going to get back. The first is the slow gun, the bolt action that needs a cycle. The single-action revolver you have to cock by hand. The pistol, with a manual safety you have to sweep off with a thumb that has just turned to stone. Any gun that puts a step, any step at all, between the decision to fire and the round leaving the barrel. The people who live in the thick Alaskan brush will tell you the autumn scrub hides a bear so completely you can be inside 20 feet before you ever register there's an animal there. There is no time in that moment to work an action or find a hammer. The most powerful rifle on the planet does absolutely nothing for you slung across your back with the bolt down. On your back, it isn't a weapon. It's a backpack that costs too much. And the second failure is that first one's mirror image, the gun that's plenty fast, but that you cannot actually control when it goes off. This is where ego starts writing checks the hands can't cash. Somebody reasons that if power is the answer, then more power has to be the better answer. So he buys the biggest hand cannon on the wall, a Scandium featherweight .44 that weighs nothing and hits like a car door, a 500 Magnum built like an anchor, something that looks like the final word in bear defense while it's sitting still on the glass counter. Then he actually touches it off, and it nearly takes his wrist with it. Now go back to your clock. 2 shots, maybe, in the time you have. If that first shot rocks you so hard the muzzle is pointing at the treetops and your hand is one bright bar of pain, then the second shot, the one that actually had to land to save you, is already gone. All that power on paper bought you a flinch, a bruise, and a very expensive noise. Here's the line worth fighting about down in the comments. A gun you are afraid of is a gun you will miss with. And against a charging bear, a miss and an empty holster are the same outcome. So settle it below. Would you rather carry a .357 you have fired 5,000 times until it's boring, or a 500 Magnum you've fired 50 times and quietly dread? Don't tell me what sounds tough. Tell me what you'd actually stake your spine on. Number 4. The 10mm you never once checked. Now we're into guns carried by people who did their homework. Or thought they did. Because the 10mm is a genuinely excellent choice. It has become the favorite bear country semi-auto for real, defensible reasons. Fast follow-up shots. 15, 16 rounds on tap. A pistol, a normal person, can actually run at speed under stress. So how does it land on a list about getting killed? It's not the gun. It's the ammunition. And this is the part almost nobody carrying one has ever stopped to check. Most factory 10mm sitting on the shelf is loaded soft. Downloaded, the industry calls it. Walked back on purpose, tamed for older pistols and for the manufacturer's own liability, until the actual velocity ends up hovering right around a .40 caliber. So a man buys a 10mm for the power printed on the box, grabs whatever yellow and white carton the counter slides across to him, and strolls into Grizzly country carrying what is, in physical fact, a .40 caliber wearing a 10mm costume. He believes he is armed for a bear. He is armed for a spirited disagreement. The 10mm only earns that fearsome reputation with the heavy, hardcast, deep-driving loads built by the people who load it hot on purpose, not the mild practice fodder that most owners never think to look past. Same gun, same stamp on the slide, 2 completely different animals, and the bear can tell the difference even if the shooter can't. And here is your villain for the evening. Because every honest story has one. It isn't a single company. It's a habit of mind, and it's been sold to American gun buyers for 100 years. It's the idea that the number stamped on the box is the same thing as the capability in your hand, that a bigger caliber automatically equals more safety, no work, No thought, no practice required, just swipe the card. That machine sells guns and premium ammunition by the pallet because buy the biggest number on the shelf moves product fast. Learn your specific load and train with it until it's dull does not sell a thing. Nobody ever got rich telling you the answer was reps. Number 3. And here is where this video walks away from every other one you have ever watched on this topic. Because number 3 is not a gun at all. It's the decision you make before the gun ever clears leather. For decades, the entire argument about bear defense has been a caliber war. 10 versus 44. Handgun versus long gun. Hardcast versus hollow point. And while everyone was busy screaming about numbers, the actual science was quietly pointing in a completely different direction. Stephen Herrero, professor emeritus at the University of Calgary, spent a lifetime studying bear attacks and wrote the book the entire field still stands on, Bear Attacks, Their Causes and Avoidance. And one of the most important things he ever documented has nothing to do with what's in your holster. It's that not all bear attacks are the same event. They are two different emergencies that happen to involve the same animal. A surprised bear, defending itself, defending a carcass, defending cubs, is a fundamentally different threat than a bear that has calmly decided you are food. And the correct human response to each one is very nearly the opposite. Read the situation wrong, and every honest instinct in your body will march you straight off a cliff. Turn and run from a predatory bear, and you have just promoted yourself to fleeing prey and flipped on the oldest chase switch in nature. Freeze and play dead against that same predatory bear, and you have simply made the meal easier. But do the aggressive, fight-back thing against a startled, defensive mother who only wanted space, and you may escalate a bluff into a killing. Same species. Same claws. Opposite right answers. Carrie Gunther has been the bear management biologist for Yellowstone National Park for around 40 years. He has spent a career at the exact seam where humans and grizzlies collide, and he'll tell you plainly that most conflict traces back to human behavior and human food long before it ever becomes a story about a gun. The startled bear on the trail, the bear conditioned to a cooler, the surprised sow with a carcass, these situations were very often decided by choices made hours or days earlier. By the time it's a shooting, most of the outcome has already been written. And this is the part the caliber crowd will never sell you, because you cannot put it on a shelf. There is no premium version of read the animal in front of you. There's no upgraded model of don't run. No deluxe edition of know which fight you're actually in. It can't be gift-wrapped or shipped. So the loudest parts of the industry stay very quiet about the single most important survival tool in bear country, which is the calm, trained judgment you assemble in your own skull long before the bear ever steps out of the brush. It's free, it's decisive, and it doesn't move a single unit of inventory. Number 2. Borrowed confidence. The most dangerous thing riding in your rig right now, and you can't see it, because it isn't a thing at all. There is one statistic that gets quoted in every single bear gun argument on the internet, without exception. You have heard it. In a landmark study of Alaskan encounters, handguns stopped aggressive bears around 84% of the time. Long guns, 76%. And people wave that 84% around like a shield strapped to their chest. The gun works. Science says so. Relax. That study is real, and it's worth respecting. Tom Smith of Brigham Young University, working with Stephen Herrero, compiled 269 firearm encounters stretching across more than a century of Alaskan history. The 84% is right there in the paper, in black and white. But almost everyone who quotes that number never once read past it. And what's sitting directly underneath it should change the way you walk into that country for the rest of your life. First, the authors themselves cautioned that the gap between handguns and long guns was too small to be statistically meaningful, given the sample they had. It's a coin flip's worth of difference dressed up as a verdict. Second, and this one should stop the breath in your chest, the people who were carrying firearms suffered the same injury rate whether they fired their guns or not. Having the gun, drawing the gun, shooting the gun did not measurably lower how badly people got hurt in close encounters. Sit inside that fact for a moment, because it is not what the number on the poster implied. And then the finding that quietly pulls the floor out from under the whole comfortable 84%. When the researchers actually modeled it, the odds of a firearm succeeding were more than 38 times higher when the bear involved was a black bear, rather than a brown bear or a polar bear. Do you feel the weight of that? That reassuring, internet-famous 84% is being propped up, quietly, by every black bear encounter folded into it. Black bears, which are smaller, which bluff, which flee far more readily, which frequently break off with a shout and a wave. Pull those cases out. Look only at the brown bears, the coastal giants, the grizzlies, the exact animal you're actually afraid of on that trail. And that comforting number falls out from under you like a rotten porch board you stepped on in the dark. Your confidence, it turns out, was never yours to begin with. You borrowed it from a statistic that was quietly counting a different, smaller, more forgiving animal. And borrowed confidence is the single deadliest thing a person can carry into grizzly country, because it is the exact reason a man walks in loose and easy, carrying an untested load, having never truly practiced, dead certain that the 84% has his back. The bears never read the study. That's the whole thing, right there. The gun that gets you killed isn't the one you think, because at the bottom, it isn't a gun at all. It's a feeling. It's a number you misremembered. And it is very probably the exact feeling you carried in here with you tonight. Number 1. The gun you never made your own. Now we bring it all the way home, because every entry on this list, every single one, collapses down into this. And the science agrees so completely, it's almost unfair to the caliber warriors. When Smith and Herrero built the model to predict who actually walked away, they tested the obvious suspects: the type of firearm, the caliber, the number of shots fired, the very things the entire internet has been screaming about for decades. And those variables turned out to be nearly worthless at predicting whether a human being survived the encounter. What predicted survival was the situation, and the person standing in it. Whether they were ready, whether the bear was surprised, whether the whole thing was managed with judgment before it ever became a shooting at all. The hardware, statistically, was almost background noise. So sit with what that means for the beautiful gun in your safe. The deadliest gun in grizzly country is not a caliber, and it never was. It's any gun in the hands of somebody who never truly made it his own. The Magnum bought for the sticker and fired exactly twice. The pistol loaded with a bullet engineered to expand fast and dump its energy shallow, the way a defensive handgun round is designed to behave, when a bear demands the exact opposite, a hard, flat-nosed slug that drives straight and deep and refuses to quit. Duncan MacPherson, the ballistics engineer whose 1994 book Bullet Penetration still anchors this entire field, spent his career on one stubborn idea: that stopping a large animal is not about energy, or drama, or the temporary splash a bullet makes on its way through. It's about a projectile reaching the deep structures that actually run the body. And getting there means a bullet with the shape and the toughness to hold together and keep boring after it hits bone. A long, heavy, flat-faced bullet carries its momentum deep, resisting the muscle and bone trying to stop it. A pretty hollow point that blossoms open and dumps everything it has in the first few inches is doing gorgeous, textbook work on entirely the wrong side of the bear's shoulder. It's a masterpiece, painted on the outside wall of a fortress the treasure was never behind. And the gun you never made your own is the one you never drilled with until the draw was thoughtless muscle. Never fired enough to know its recoil in your sleep and ride it back onto target without deciding to. Never fed the deep driving bullet it actually needed. Never carried it enough to trust it, locked against your body instead of buried in a pack you'd inevitably set down by the stream. You own it. That was never the question. You never made it yours. And in the 2 seconds that decide the rest of your life, a gun you own but have not mastered is nothing but expensive, useless weight hanging off your hip. So let's put the whole thing together. Because you didn't come here tonight to be scared. You came here to be ready. Every gun we talked about can get somebody killed. And every single one of them has also, somewhere, saved a life. The difference was never once the thing the forums fight about at 2 in the morning. It was never the caliber. The difference was whether the gun was actually riding on your body when the clock started. Whether you could run it without a single conscious thought. Whether the bullet you'd chosen would drive deep enough to reach what matters. and whether you'd read the animal in front of you honestly, before the fear read you first. That grizzly at 35 miles an hour is still coming. It was always coming. That's the country you chose to walk into, eyes open. And there is a kind of person who walks into it anyway, clear-headed and prepared, carrying a gun they have bled sweat over on a range 100 cold mornings. Not the biggest gun on the wall, the gun they know down to the bone. I've stood in that country with the wrong gun on my hip and far too much confidence in my chest, and the only honest reason I'm here to tell you any of this is that the bear that morning simply wasn't interested, and dumb luck is not a plan I would ever wish on you. So carry the gun you can wear all day and still have on your body when it counts. Feed it a bullet built to drive deep, not the one that looks prettiest in the ammo aisle, and shoot it cold, under stress, in the rain, tired, until the 2 seconds you're going to get are 2 seconds you have already lived through 100 times before the bear ever shows up. Do that, and you've done everything a human being can do. That's not fear talking. That's respect. For the animal, for the country, and for the people who'll miss you if you get it wrong. If that's the kind of hunter you already are, or the kind you're deciding right now to become, then honestly, you're already one of us. Subscribe, and stand with the people who would rather carry the hard truth than the comfortable lie. Because out in that country, the comfortable lie is the exact thing that gets you killed, and you are always worth more than a comfortable lie. The bears never read the study. Don't be the man who did, and forgot the only part that mattered.